Good afternoon. I've been a little MIA streaming since Wednesday night. That was when we did our Wednesday witchy hour stream, and then I thought maybe I'd stream Friday or over the weekend, but I got a cold the last 2 days. I'm mostly better today, so that's good. um, it was just a minor head cold, and yay for feeling better. I'm still a little tired, but I have a lot of art to finish up, including our creepy mermaid that we started, which I'm doing in watercolor and gouache, which is a type of watercolor that isn't quite as transparent as traditional watercolor, so I can do kind of these solid white um, highlights and things like that. So we designed this creepy mermaid a week ago yesterday, and I started painting her on stream. So since then, I've come in and I have added. Let's see if I can zoom us out a tiny bit to show this in its entirety. See if I can get it here for you guys. I have added a bit of more of a background. I've started on the rock and some of the sky, which is just a blend of some blues and greens. So our next goal is to finish her up and all the details. There's some bones and things on the rocks, and where her tail goes underwater, and all that fun stuff. So we're gonna work on all that for a couple of hours. I don't know if we'll finish her, but we'll at least get started. We'll see if the felines behave today. They've been being pretty good. I've been working with them on being in here or just being chill while I'm streaming, so we'll see how that goes. We just had like a cold that just made us really tired and stuffy. I mean, we already had allergies, so yay for more stuff. Kind of getting to us. Always fun. But now I'm just a little tired, so it was more like a normal cold that you just kick in a couple of days, and more annoying than anything else because I was still trying to work at least half days. Daniel had to take 2 days off from work, which sucks because he had to take a lot of sick days this year because we keep getting colds or sinus infections, and we're not usually. I mean, I swear I've never had this many colds or allergies of this strength or anything in 8 years. So let alone 6 months. So this is super fun. But hopefully we're good now. And it doesn't help that like every time we start to get better and kind of build our immune system back up, there's kind of been some other fun things we've had to deal with. We've had a lot of schedule changes with his work and fun things like that. So, oh yeah, and they're scheduling changing us again a little bit today and then going into tomorrow and probably for who knows how long. To deal with just like how things are in the world right now. So they want closers, which is what he is at the store, to work a lot later. So he's going to switch from going in. Previously, when he moved to the back for a little bit, he was going in at like 6 in the morning. Now we've readjusted to him working noon to 9, and starting tomorrow, he's working like 3 to midnight. It's ridiculous. So we're just going to cope the best we can. And guess that means I'll be able to do more evening streams and stuff. But speaking of which, we had an awesome stream on Wednesday. It was really fun. We had an hour where we talked, well, actually more like 2 hours. We talked about runes and candles and how I do art inspired by runes and all sorts of other things. And I don't have the event up yet because I was sick. I'm going to put it up, but this coming Wednesday, my stream, which starts at 6 o'clock Arizona time, which is the same, I believe, as California right now. I'm going to be doing an hour or two, depending on how many people are there and how many people want stuff on things related to ancient Egypt and Egyptian mythology, fiction inspired by it, and nonfiction books. I'm even going to show the actual Egyptian Book of the Dead. Hello, thank you. She's a creepy siren that that sucks the souls from people. So she drinks souls, which is why there's a lot of forlorn sailor skulls and fish bones. She's not really picky about which species she kills. And we started her about a week ago, and so I've been trying to get back to finish her. So lots of little details to get like all this cool bone pattern down the rest of her. That's our next goal. In fact, I might zoom us up a little more now that I'm doing more detailed paintings so that you guys can see more. There we go. Well, welcome to the stream. I was talking about the fact that I have been a little bit of a slacker with streaming because I got sick for 3 days. So, and a couple of my friends were like, "Oh my God, are you worried you're sick? Maybe you have like the really bad virus." I'm like, "No, no, no, no. I've been sick so much this year; it doesn't alarm me very much. I know what the symptoms are, and we just seem to be." In spite of mostly staying at home, it's probably from Daniel's work, we just seem to be snagging every head cold this year. So we probably haven't had COVID. We did quarantine for 2 weeks when we had similar symptoms because the doctor wanted us to. But yeah, we haven't probably had that, and we've also had allergies. We haven't had the flu. We've just had like 5 colds in 6 months, which is ridiculous. Plus, he also had a sinus infection, which I did not have. And then allergies so severe that they had to put him on antibiotics for allergies, which is just silly. So, yeah. But hey, I still get to make art, which is fun and awesome, and something that kind of gets me through all the craziness in the world and in life. And I guess while I was really sick, Friday was like the day I was really not feeling well, Thursday and Friday, so I worked a bit Friday morning and then I just like went to sleep, and I guess I missed all the crazy protests going on everywhere, which is pretty insane to read about the next day because Tucson's usually pretty chill, and I guess we had a lot of broken windows and graffiti and stuff downtown here, which is pretty unusual. So they actually had to call it the riot police, which is pretty scary because Tucson is not a very big place compared to more major cities where I've lived. So I was like, wow, well, I guess my cold was there for a reason so that I would not be stressing over that because I'd be on meds asleep while it was going on. But always an adventure in life, I guess. Hoping everyone I know who works downtown is doing okay. um, oh no, I feel like the world's gone a bit insane right now, which is a little scary, but I still get to make art, and there have definitely been times in my life, I don't know, I've heard a lot of people talking about how this is like the worst time in the world, and just from the virus being at home or businesses being shut down. And I've had, I've never had an experience like this, but I've definitely had years in my life that were pretty bad. Where are you located? Because here in Arizona, we got the worst allergy season ever. We're waiting for the rain to start and get rid of it. Like, I've just been doing kind of over the counter meds, and I'm okay. The problem is they make me really sleepy, and then when you also have a cold, it's awful. So what happened was, yeah, I didn't get so bad that I needed like allergy shots or antibiotics, but my boyfriend did. So they actually pulled him out of work for a couple of days and put him on like 4 different medications. It was crazy, but he's much better now. So that's good. But yeah, we've had so much pollen. Like I don't even have a specific thing I'm allergic to. It's just pollen and dust. We've had so much pollen. There is literally inches of pollen. Like you can see it yellow powder and flower petals in inches at the curbs in our neighborhood. It's that bad. Um, we took a photo and put it on Facebook, and somebody asked us like, "What is that stuff?" We're like, "No, that's pollen." They're like, "You can't have that much pollen." I'm like, "Oh, you can. It can pile up when the wind blows, and it all ends up there." So that's super fun. But I mean, it's not like I have a terminal illness or anything. Allergies will pass, and life will go on, and I just get frustrated because I'm like catching up on work and getting everything done, and then I get either really bad allergies or get sick, and I'm like, I'm not even prone to getting sick. I normally maybe get one cold a year, maybe two. So we've had five head colds. Starting with like the day, like I think January 1st or 2nd, we got our first head cold. So that was just dumb. But yeah, I have ways that I cure them, and this one we really got in about 48 hours. I'm a little tired, but it's mostly gone. I basically Oh, whoa, okay, yeah. I'm originally from the East Coast, so pine allergies are really like if you because pine pollen is so fine. Anytime like any of the pine or pine related species pollinated back east or here. I'm originally from upstate New York on the New York Massachusetts border, so I totally know what that's like. And we're all freaking out because it's like 20% humidity here. And we're like, oh my God, it's so humid. I'm like, this is silly from compared to the East Coast. That's nothing, but you get used to not having it, and then you get a little bit, and it's crazy. We don't have very many mosquitoes here, though. I mean, I still get some bites, but fewer, and there's no black flies, which I am very fair skinned. Like, this is me tan. So I am very fair skinned. So yeah, back east, I would just be completely covered in bugs. And I never thought I would stay out here. And now I have spent almost as much of my life in the Southwest and on the West Coast as I did back east, which is crazy. In fact, I think next year makes it a completely even 20 years in each place. That's which is nuts. Yeah, I hate bugs too. And people here are like, "Oh, we're so scared of spiders." I'm like, unless it's a poisonous thing like a black widow, which is the only thing we usually kill here. I like spiders because they eat any bugs. So, and the way the house I have is we have a garage, but it's open on the backside, so it's more of like a hybrid garage carport. So our cars are actually covered, but they don't get too hot. Um, and we get a lot of like bats that live in our garage, which is really weird. But I love it because I almost never get a lot of bugs around the house because the bats eat between bats and the occasional spider, they just take care of the bugs, and I'm good with that. I really, really don't. I mean, I like bugs as inspiration for art. I don't like bugs as something that bites me. If it's a non-biting bug, then I'm okay with it. My boyfriend took a photo of a really cool beetle outside his work a couple weeks ago, and we looked it up. And it's a good thing he didn't touch it because it was a blister beetle, and apparently it will give you quite painful burns. It's so acidic. Um, they're called iron cross blister beetles. They're really pretty, but yeah, they will totally burn the heck out of you. They can kill small animals. The burns are so severe. I was like, whoa, okay. I'm really glad you didn't touch that, dude. He also has a pair of roadrunners that live right by his work, so he sometimes sends me videos of them running around chasing each other. Which it turns out a lot of my friends I grew up with, the first time I posted photos or videos when I moved to the Southwest of roadrunners, they didn't realize they were real birds. They thought they were something made up for the cartoon, and I was like, no, it's a real bird. They don't quite look like the cartoon. I think the cartoon looks more like an ostrich mixed with a roadrunner, because roadrunners are not. They don't have legs that long. They're quite a bit shorter in comparison to their bodies, but they do run really funny like that. So, and I'm gonna use white and really pop out like all of the bone detail here. I'm just working on kind of building the dark areas first. I guess it's scary. I don't know. I think there's you can get dangerous critters wherever, so as long as you know. Like when I first moved here, I went to a bunch of educational seminars at our cool desert museum, which is actually a zoo and a museum, and they're one of the top zoos in the world. It's where I learned to paint animals, and I learned a ton about rattlesnakes, and I have like no fear of rattlesnakes now at all because something like 97 to 98% of rattlesnake bites are what's called unauthentic, which means that they easily could have been avoided, but the person did something really dumb. Stepped on it, tried to move it, or most commonly, statistically, if you are like a male between the age of like 25 and 35, something like that, and you've been drinking, your chances of being bitten by a rattlesnake go way up because guys get drunk and try to take photos with them at barbecues. And trying to take a photo with a snake is, especially a rattlesnake's pretty dumb. So most of the time, if you see one, you just leave it alone. It leaves you alone. It will slither off, and you're good. And if you have a nest of them or something near your house, then you do need to call animal control, and they'll come relocate them out into the desert. And unfortunately, people kill a lot of snakes because there's some similar species that look a little bit like rattlers, and so they assume that they're rattlers, and they kill them, and they kill like baby snakes that are actually completely harmless, which is sad. But for the most part, rattlesnakes actually aren't that like dangerous. Um, as long as you don't try to move it yourself, pick it up, anything like that, you have to leave those things to people who are snake handling trained. But yeah, as long as you, like with any animal out here, as long as you um, respect their space. And I grew up in the country in New York, so we did have foxes and occasionally like bobcats and things. We just don't anymore because they people pretty much killed them all and then wondered why the deer overpopulated after that. But I've seen bobcats here near my house. I see coyotes on a regular basis if I take walks. They just kind of live in the area. We have cats, and they're indoor only cats because the coyotes would eat them. Yeah, you have to be. I mean, again, it depends on the animal, and you always have to be aware of kind of the behavior of animals where you live. Most animals don't like to be cornered. Um, I mean, we do occasionally get. I was trying to think. It wasn't a raccoon because back east we'd get raccoons that would get rabies. There was an animal that got into somebody's garage, not that near me, like completely other side of the county, about I don't know an hour away. I want to say it was like a coatimundi or something really weird, and it was like there during the day and acting very vicious and attacked this lady and her dog. And they were both okay, but it did test positive for rabies. But it's very, very rare that we hear that. So, most animals you just don't mess with them. Unfortunately, we get tourists who think like coyotes or javelina are cute. Javelina look like pigs, but they're not at all related to pigs. And they're actually as much, if not more dangerous than wild boars. They're not as big, but they have, first of all, they eat cacti as a dietary thing. So if something can ingest that many spiky spines, you probably shouldn't mess with it. Um, and they're fine if you don't get close to them or you leave them alone. But if you try to take photos close up with them or feed them, especially if they have young present, which they often do, like baby ones, they will get very defensive. And they have razor sharp teeth. Like they can easily kill a small dog. So you don't mess with them. On top of that, instead of having fur, they have quills, like spines, almost like a porcupine. They're super weird, but they look like pigs. And then, as if all that's not enough, they're very mean tempered. And they have the ability to make skunks smell if they get threatened, so they smell as well. So people visit and they're like, "Oh, they're so cute, the little pig creatures," and it's like, don't try to feed them if you see them. Don't mess with them because as long as you're like, "Oh, that's 20 feet away, I can just leave it alone. It'll grab its cactus that it's eating and it'll move on." But if you try to pet them or mess with them, which yeah, I think it's that way everywhere. Tourists are not always. Some tourists are good when they travel and they read about something or they listen to some advice, but others. I mean, if I was traveling somewhere and I didn't know what an animal was, I would not. I would err on the side of caution. I would not mess with it. But you're always going to get the occasional person who does something pretty dumb. So there was a lady who was attacked by a javelina, I think late last year, earlier this year, because she tried to feed it. And they're not, I mean, they're smaller than like a wild boar, but they still can get pretty big. I don't know. I wouldn't. I wouldn't mess with them. But it's not like they go out and seek out people to attack. Rattlesnakes don't do that either. It's just if you see a mountain lion or a rattlesnake or a bobcat, you probably should go the other way and not approach it. And we do get mountain lions. They had some mountain lions that got into somebody's courtyard in Tucson last year and were like drinking out of their fountain and taking baths in it. And they're big. Mountain lions can be well over 100 pounds. Definitely not something to mess with. So they were kind of reiterating, hey, if one of these shows up at your house, call animal control. Don't try to move it. But I love wildlife, and I've lived in a lot of places that have had interesting wildlife. Back east, why is my camera flickering so much? That's so weird. All right, now back east we had deer ticks, which I actually think are worse than any of the creatures we have out here because they're tiny and they can make you really sick and you could die from Lyme disease. And they're a lot harder to spot than a bobcat or a coyote or any of that stuff. So sometimes I think the smallest critters are the worst. And we do have scorpions here and black widows and things like that, but for the most part, they don't get into your homes. If you buy stuff from a local farmer's market, though, you should always check. Like here, you should always check the boxes because often in like a berry box or something, you might get a little scorpion. And they're not as scary as people make them out to be in movies. Most people, you should go to the hospital if you get bitten, but it won't kill you right away. Unless you have an allergy, like people have bee sting allergies. It's more like just getting a really nasty hornet or bee sting. I've never gotten bitten by one. I've been very lucky, knock on wood, so far. Um, and again, most of the time you just leave them alone. But we have a lot of out here for the most part. That we do see are lizards, tons of lizards, and I have to be careful if I have like my door open in the morning to let the air in to close it early enough because otherwise our cats all sit. We have like a wrought iron screen door, and they'll sit there and they'll wait for a lizard to get close enough, and they'll get a paw under the door, and they will drag the lizard into the house. But they won't kill it. They'll let it loose somewhere and then chase it around, and I will find like detached lizard tails and things like that, which is not that pleasant. So definitely something I try to avoid. It's just coming along pretty good. I feel like I need a couple more deeper shadows in places up here too. And I rarely use black, but I'm using a little bit on her just because I really want to pop the uh, the bones kind of out, make them stand out. But I definitely do that last with the black. I mean, I'm going to add white for the bones too, but uh, I'm definitely not going to overdo with my black shadows because I don't want too much of that in here. But I think most people get injured by animals are ones who just don't know what they're dealing with and then try to take a picture with it, which is like the weirdest reaction. I think we're in just a selfie generation that wants to take photos with everything, even if it might hurt you. So, yay for that, I guess. And things are gradually reopening here. I think our movie theater, the one that my boyfriend and I go to, they're reopening on, I want to say the 5th or 6th. Maybe it's the 10th, I don't know, but it's pretty soon. And they're doing a lot of, I mean, they were already doing a lot of cautionary stuff before things closed. So, and the seats there are so spaced out to begin with that I think it'll be pretty safe. And we're still not planning to even think about going to the movies till like July or August. I think everybody here in Tucson, at least, is being very, very cautious. I just saw that my local coffee shop is going to reopen for dine-in, but it's only going to be the patio seating, and so it's going to be outdoors. Um, and then if you go inside, you're just able to order takeout. So they've been open for a bit now. They just only do to go, so they're going to do some dine-in with outdoor seating, but they're going to do a lot of precautions and really space things apart. So everybody's being pretty careful and gradual. Which I think is frustrating a lot of people, but I think it's good to see everyone just sort of taking their time and making sure if they are reopening that they have safety measures in place and proper separations between things. And so far, we're hanging in there and doing pretty good. I even went grocery shopping yesterday morning because I couldn't go. I normally go during the week because I try to avoid it on weekends. But because I had a cold, I couldn't do that. And yesterday I felt pretty good, so I went out and got us food and cat food because we were out of a lot of stuff. And it actually wasn't too bad. Like I went very first thing, but they told me actually the best day when they're like dead at the supermarket is like really early Sunday mornings. So that's weird. I still won't go shopping on a Friday, but that existed before quarantine for me. I would just never go to the grocery store or any store really on a Friday because I think a lot of people go and then it gets all crazy. So try to avoid all of that. I think our creepy mermaid's coming along. I've been trying to finish up paintings even though I wasn't feeling well. I finished a couple commissions yesterday. I have almost finished the Hangover Hydra we started on stream. That one's almost done. I'm trying to make sure I'm all caught up on anything I had pending before the end of the month, which we're pretty much at the end of the month. So I don't like to start like a new month and be like, I'm behind on stuff. Kind of amazed I'm not that behind on stuff, considering that I have been sick so much this year, but I've been trying to space stuff out. So, and I'm setting up a Kickstarter. I've been working on getting it set up. That's going to launch on the 15th. So I'm pretty excited about that. I've been doing all the research part, which a lot of people don't realize I do every time I do a Kickstarter, which is rechecking all the postal rates and the weights on the books and everything I'm going to be creating, checking printing costs and options, deciding what special items to offer, doing tests if need be for those. So I've been kind of working my way through all that stuff, which is an experience. It's not fun, but I think it's important to do. You can't assume, even if you've done a Kickstarter project a couple months before, you can't assume, or even a year before, that the printing costs from the same printer are going to be the same or the shipping costs are going to be the same. So you have to kind of check everything and make a lot of notes about like the budget and all that fun stuff. Which I'm sure you guys really don't care about as long as the Kickstarter is there and is cool. Um, but I've been developing some really cool stuff that's going to be some of the higher end collectible items. I always do lower end, like really affordable paperbacks and options, and then some higher end, one of a kind, unique things. And actually, this artwork is for that project. I think she's going to end up being the back cover on the book because I think she'll work really well for that. And I actually think that would be. I've released like cover previews, but I actually haven't designed the back cover yet. We only have the front cover because it's not a wraparound piece of art this time. And I think she's actually going to be the back cover on the book. So I'm actually going to do, because the book is related to creatures that drink things. In this case, she drinks souls. But some of the creatures drink tea or coffee or juices from things or booze, sometimes mystical booze. Fairy wine is included. But yeah, because of all that, I want to offer coasters, which we got a press for doing last year, but I also want to offer one of a kind coasters that are hand drawn, that are really, really special wooden ones. I didn't just want to do hand drawn stuff for like the coaster press that I have. So I am doing some tests, and so far they're going pretty well to be able to do wooden coasters with ink sketches on them that will be sealed and varnished enough that they will not be destroyed if you actually use them as coasters. So far that's going pretty well. But yeah, a lot of people will just throw things on a Kickstarter and assume that they're going to find the materials or the printer or the publisher or whatever later. And I don't think you can do that because you really need to know how much everything's going to cost, and then even allow for some leeway in there. So thank you. Yeah, I was having a lot of fun testing out stuff. I have to do. I'm trying to decide if I want to use a polyurethane varnish on my coasters or a lacquer-based spray that is something I have to do outside. And I'm trying to decide which works better and which will be the easiest for me to make. So I always try to offer on every Kickstarter really affordable stuff like digital copies of books, stickers, things like that, where you can get something for under $10 if you don't have a lot of money to contribute. And then I try to offer really unique things so that if you're international and you are paying a lot for shipping, which unfortunately books are just expensive to ship, you can get a one of a kind drawing in your book. You'll be able to get a one of a kind coaster. Like I'm going to hand draw artwork on each coaster that will be different. So I'm really excited for that. And a lot of the ideas what I offer on projects, they come from my Patreon subscribers who are awesome, who really help me figure out what should be in the books. And this is what they voted on that I should do as a design tutorial a couple weeks ago. So we did kind of how she was designed as far as the sketch and everything, and then the starting of the painting. And now I'm going to use that video and this video to make a full PDF tutorial that my subscribers will get that really goes into exactly the whole process for like designing and painting. And my last how-to book has mermaids in it, but it doesn't have scary ones. So I really wanted to kind of expand upon that. And we're making the next how-to book elemental themed, so it'll be divided up by creatures of different elements. So she'll be one of the water creatures that we're including. And we've already done some different forest tutorials for it, so I'm kind of excited about that. So I'm always trying to develop artwork for my fully illustrated books, which is the full color stuff that she's going to be in, but also tutorials, and simultaneously sometimes we do coloring pages if I'm working on stuff that has ink. So then we get coloring pages for coloring books and for subscribers out of that. So I've learned to be very good at multitasking the last oh gosh, I want to say the last 7 or 8 years. I'm trying to get my light in a little bit of a better place, so it's not as glaring on me, but then will also be good on the the art I'm working on. Oh, close enough. Because I've learned that might want to put 17 hours into a painting, but I'm not going to probably be able to sell it for enough to make it worth it, unless I can also do prints and other books and other things. So, oh, that's cool. I've been asked a bit about enamel pins. I've been hesitant to do them because you have to do so many of one design, and they're pretty expensive. But I've done wooden charms and acrylic charms and pins and stuff. Um, well, that's cool. Do you stream as well? Do you stream painting as well, so I can follow you and see it? I'm always like looking for other artists on here because I've only been on Twitch about 2 months, so. And yeah, it's cool to meet somebody else who does Kickstarters too. I'm always trying to kind of keep track of people because I'll get people who ask me like, I want to do a Kickstarter and I want to do an enamel pins. And I'm like, well, I haven't done one on that, but I know 3 or 4 people who have, so I can kind of point them to other people with advice because Kickstarter is a lot. A lot of people think it's just like you put a project up and people throw money at you and then you get to keep all that money, and that is not how that works. I think last year alone I spent over 10 grand on shipping for Kickstarters. Like it was crazy. Though I have learned like a lot about how to kind of optimize using your Kickstarter funds. And I think this project, which is going to be called. Oh, yay. Well, if you do, let me know. What kind of art do you do? Obviously, something that works on pins. So I know like stuff like this will not work on pins because it's too detailed. So I've had to do for like stickers and pins and things. I've had to do. All right, light. You're just going to be difficult, aren't you? There we go. I've had to do a lot of like more simplified art or things like that. But yeah, I have a really good webcam for art that I use that is what I'm showing for this part. And then the one that is on my face is actually just a cell phone. You can set it up where your cell phone um, will stream to your computer. Will connect to your computer and then include that in a stream. So it's a sneaky way to have an extra camera without having to buy an extra camera. And I actually had an older cell phone, so I don't even have to kill the battery on my cell phone to do it. My boyfriend says his work is all kinds of messy, so it'll definitely keep him busy today. I've heard all kinds of weird stories about people on their jobs right now too. It's crazy, but I'm especially trying to encourage more people to who do traditional art to stream. I do both digital and traditional, and I've streamed both. But I've noticed. Oh yeah, well that's what I do. So that's awesome. I do ink, watercolor, gouache, and digital paint primarily. So yay. If you don't already watch her, you should look for a streamer who goes by Cassie Draws. And I think she's actually doing a stream later today because she's East Coast, so she does like a draw along thing, but it's CASSY and then draws. She's been streaming for like 3 years and she has a lot of good advice on it. And she paints with acrylic, but has also done some watercolor on there. So if you need inspiration, she's awesome. I always have a lot of fun watching her streams, and her whole community is awesome. So I'm like a huge fan. I can't remember if like I saw you there. I'm trying to remember because a lot of people have gone back. Okay, that is how you found me. Cool. I thought so. A lot of people have kind of gone back and forth, but I'm doing an impromptu stream today, so I don't really know how many people are going to watch. Usually I do like more of event based streams where I'll put it on Facebook and my website and kind of let people know we do like a regular Wednesday night stream, but that might be kind of late for the East Coast. And that one's kind of like a variety show where we talk a lot about mythology and folklore and magic, and we started making on themes. So this coming Wednesday, it's going to be at 6 here, which I believe is 9 there. We're going to do Egyptian mythology, magic, and folklore. We're going to look at Egyptian oracle decks and fiction and nonfiction and movies and TV shows. It started out because I kept talking about books and movies that I like while I was painting on stream, and people said I should do a stream where I actually specifically like show those books and the authors and kind of review them. So I know we're doing that this coming Wednesday, and then we might do the next one as vampires and werewolves, because we were kind of talking about that in my last one. So if you ever need info on doing like wooden or acrylic ones, since I've been through that process, or on doing ones you can make yourself with like a button press. I not only have a button press, but let me see if I can grab this real quick to show you because it's kind of cool. So I have 4 different button presses over the years, and one of the things we found out last year is that you can get these guys, which are for making 3.5-inch buttons. I believe they're really big, but the same machine will take a different kit without the pin back that puts it flat back, and then they give you stick-ons for doing coasters. So the cheaper coasters that I'm doing on my project are actually something you can make at home if you have the press. You have to invest in the press, but I Kickstarter funded to do that, so that was covered. um, well, you've got a laser cutter. Well, that's cool. I have just like a regular cutter. Yeah, isn't that cool? And you can also get magnet backings. So if you do invest in a button press of any size, you can do magnets or buttons. But if you do this size, you can also do coasters, which were something I was asked for all the time. So I was really happy I got a press last summer to do it. I want to say with the coaster parts and everything, I probably spent like $500 getting like the machine and everything, but now I have it. So that's cool because obviously I'm doing a beverage themed book. So the coasters will come in handy. And I think one of the best ways you can use Kickstarter is to basically make goals where if you fund that, you know that you can buy a press or a machine for doing what you need so you're not paying for that out of pocket, because then you can offer those items on future projects. and not have to make it a stretch goal, which is how I ended up. The first button machine I think I got myself like 10 years ago, way before I did Kickstarters, but the other three definitely all came from Kickstarters. I also have a machine for making like metal keychains, and yeah, I make a lot of stuff. I recently got a machine for doing die cut stickers that I guess also does etching, but I haven't messed with the etching on it at all yet, so we'll see what happens next. But yeah, if you ever need info on like any of that stuff, just hit me up. You can either send me a message on Twitch or send me an email, whatever. I know how much time it takes to research things, so if I can send someone the information I found when I was doing it and save them time, I get like people are like, you shouldn't do that. You're just creating competition, and I'm like, no, because they always refer people back to me. It always ends up good long run, and we all do different art, so it's not like we're directly competing. So but yeah, I do bookmarks in a lot of my projects because I can mail them inside books, so I don't have to worry about issues with that. So Kickstarter for me started as a way I wanted to do one book on drawing clockwork creatures, and I think this is year 7 or 8 for me with Kickstarters now. It's at least year 7. I think this summer will be 7 years. And this will be Kickstarter 43 if it funds, which is ridiculous. Don't ever do that many a year, because you will probably have a mental breakdown. I'm kind of surprised that I haven't yet. Um, and everybody assumes I then know everything about Kickstarter. I'm like, no, no, you have to allow. If you're somebody who does Kickstarter, Patreon, anything with events, you have to put in time every month to just keep up on what is changing. So I know I have to have like this Kickstarter prepped for approval by June 8th so we can launch on the 15th, because that's the date Kickstarter wants to at least have the time to approve it. So I've been making sure I have all like my price points figured out. And but yeah, I thought I'd done a couple of Kickstarters. I did like a simple, really simple how-to book, a series of prints, and then I did a children's book, and then I got the idea for doing a field guide that would be dragons, and it would be called Dragon Scale, and it would be dragons by size. It's kind of a pun name. And they would go from smallest to largest. So they're like dragons that are so tiny you need a microscope to see them, and then they go up to the size of. Well, the last one in the book is so big that all you see is its eye with the universe reflected in it. So I thought this will be cool. I'll do a book, and then we stretch goaled it, and it ended up being a 200-page book. And I worked so hard. I didn't even have like a printer, a thermal printer. So I was like, we don't want to talk about the postage and the mailing on that. It was awful. Hi, yay, friends. But yeah, I was doing a lot more stuff manually, and I thought that was going to be it. That was going to be like my big book project. And then I realized I could do them with the elements and do like an earth, air, fire, water series of books. And then it just kept going. So this is going to be counting, like we did these little spin-off pocket-sized guides on like fantastical creatures and what their eggs look like and what their feathers look like. So counting those, I think this is book 21, which is insane. Like I never thought I would be doing that, and I am so thankful I've had so many people kind of support my projects and have stuff grow out of that. And this project is specifically designed to pair with another book that I did called Dessert Dragons, which is all creatures related to desserts. So I thought the beverage book would pair well with it. So I'm planning to kind of offer both on the Kickstarter. It is crazy. Like I never thought that would happen. I ended up finding some really good editors. We kind of swap edit books, and because I started out as a writer. I don't know how this happened, but I think if you just figure out what you love to do and you work at it, and you're willing to put the time in for like the business side for all the research, if you've run a Kickstarter, the business side and the mailing is no joke. There's like a lot to figure out for projects and how to do all of that. And I've slowly been growing this for a while, and I'm really glad that I have Twitch and Patreon and Kickstarter, because I normally do like a lot of in-person events, and a lot of those obviously were canceled. And I know a lot of creators whose businesses probably won't make it through this because they only do in-person event stuff, and they can't get enough in online sales. And I'd already kind of transitioned a bit to doing more of that. So it isn't as scary for me because I didn't have all my eggs in the vended conventions or book festivals basket. So it hurt me because one of my biggest events was canceled like 3 days out. It was really rough. But I then looked at how hard a time a lot of other people have been having. I'm like, oh, I was lucky that I was already doing Kickstarters. I was already doing an online store and a Patreon. And the only problem multitasking is hard because what I've done to kind of compensate for a lot of the loss of income from shows is to start doing commissions again. So I've been like juggling a lot. um, this morning I was doing roughs for a huge commission. I'm doing a giant 20 by 30 watercolor painting. So it's about more than 3 times the size of this painting. And it involves 8 different Norse gods or creatures. And basically it's kind of like Ragnarok, but it's going to, yeah, I waited on Patreon. I think if you've already done Kickstarter, you're in a good place because what happened for me is I had fans from conventions, I had fans from Facebook and Instagram and Kickstarter, and they specifically said, we want to see videos of you painting. We want more behind the scenes stuff. We want monthly content. And I didn't start a Patreon until I kind of had the demand for it. So I immediately got a good push of people on there. I've noticed creators who start out directly on Patreon, it's a lot harder. Like, I think the trick is, like, if you're looking to do, and everybody's different in the choices that they make, but if you're looking to do kind of an online business where you do an online store and you do Patreon, you do Kickstarter, and you do Twitch, the trick is learning to use all those things together. And I also do, as I said, like conventions and some in-person stuff, but I used to do a lot of them. And then I had this instinct that like there were way too, at one point we had 7 Comic-Cons in Arizona, 7 different Comic-Cons per year. And I was like, there is no way that one person is going to go to all 7 of those Comic-Cons or even 3 of them and spend enough at my booth at each of them to make it worth it for me to do all of them. So I had already started kind of dialing back, and now I do a variety of different events. So like we have an amazing reptile show here, and I vend that every year, which is a completely different audience than I'm going to see at a book festival or a Comic-Con. Um, and here's the really cool thing. If you have events that you want to vend at, the most expensive issue you're going to have with events is not the space to sell, because that's usually not too bad, and you can always start out by sharing with other people to minimize your costs. But if it's not a local event, the most expensive cost for you is going to be the hotel. So the sneaky thing you do is if you're doing Kickstarters, you take the money from the Kickstarter and you don't use it directly. You get something that is either an airline miles credit card, or I use a Hyatt credit card, and I pay for like all my book printing with that. And then I pay it off with the Kickstarter funds right away. What that means is I get 5 to 10 free nights at hotels every year if I do 3 Kickstarters. That's huge. That's because one night at a hotel or 2 nights might be as much as your entire booth cost at a convention. So if I do want to do a convention, even not to sell at it, but just to go be a guest, they're more likely to have me be a guest if I say, oh, you don't have to pay for a hotel room for me. I've got free hotel nights. Just give me a place to do a signing and I'm there. So that's like those sorts of ways you can use Kickstarter with Patreon, with hotel stuff or airline miles or things like that. Those are the things that kind of not only give you advantages, but oh, cool. But the yeah, I've never done. I did Otakon in Baltimore when I used to live back east, and I was a very young 19-year-old anime fan at conventions. But I've never done any like the Boston shows or anything. I think most of them honestly didn't start up till kind of after I left. We're very fortunate that just in Tucson we have a ton of like local bookstores that host me there to do book releases or art demos. Like I've learned if you're willing to kind of give away bookmarks and talk about Kickstarter at conventions and help out people who are starting out, and you are like, that's a legitimate thing that I enjoy doing. It's one of the reasons I love Cassie's stream, because she's very helpful. And I think it's not that you're doing it for PR, you're doing it because you really want to help out other creators. If you have kind of that attitude, you're more likely to like get invited to do book releases or art events at stores because you're giving something back to the community, so they're more likely to give back to you. Yeah, smaller local events can actually be better. And people laugh at me, but I'm like, if I can do a small local event for 3 hours and make a couple $100 and I'm not paying the for a table or anything else to be there, and I can do a couple of those in a month, that's easier for me to fit in than 4 day shows where I have to spend hundreds, if not thousands, of dollars to be there. The one exception is Festival of Books here. That's my most profitable 2 days of the entire year. So I'd actually already stocked for it, and we got canceled 3 days out. So that was really brutal. But I let them hang on to my booth funds and just push it for next year. I'm having faith that I'm still going to be here next year, and I'm going to do it then. And that's because it's the best run event I've ever been to. They're really organized. They don't charge admission. So, and people bring wheeled suitcases. They're planning to buy that many books. So that's an event where in 2 days I'll make double what I would make at a 4 day Comic Con when Comic Cons are really big. So I do a few events like that, but for the most part, smaller local events, or if you do something like a specific type of art, like I do a lot of wildlife art, and a lot of dragons. That's what I'm kind of known for. So the reptile show is a great fit for me because most people who have bearded dragons and iguanas, they love art with fantasy dragons on them. And I'm not up against 10 other artists doing that. I'm one of the only people there doing that. And that event draws about 10,000 people, and they spend hundreds of dollars in reptiles. So they don't think twice about buying an art print or a pin or a mouse pad. So I always encourage like artists to look for things that fit the subject matter of what you do, not like general art shows, but something that's specific to what you create. Um, because I think you're going to find a better fan base and get more sales if you do that. And I've made some really good friends at the reptile show too. Plus, they let you take photos, and if you're a vendor, you get to go in early. So I get access to all the reptiles for photos and sketches and stuff before it's open to the public, which is really cool. Because there's usually a huge line for things like the king cobra. So um, I still always remember like one of the years, and I think it was right before I actually started selling there, when I was still like just attending. But one of the years, the handler made the king cobra strike the glass for us, and that was pretty insane. But yeah, I love kind of exploring the local community here and having that. And interestingly, I have it way more in Tucson than I did when I lived in LA. I think LA people were not as helpful to each other. They were very competitive. I don't know, it was just a completely different scene, and I was never very comfortable there. I learned a lot. I went to an industry school for like creature design and for movies and things like that. So I kind of combined that with wildlife classes, and that's how I ended up here doing this. Um, and I thought I would be in Tucson for like 2 years to just take wildlife and botanical illustration, and here we are. Gosh, that was 2008 that I moved here. So here we are, what, 12 years later, and I'm still here. So I guess I'm staying. But it also is really affordable to live here, which is how I can afford to do this for a living because I used to work in graphic design and in tech, and I made a lot more money, but I was a very miserable person who was stressed out all the time. So I chose to be here instead. And I feel like Cassie's streaming later today too, so I'm trying not to kind of run into her stream. I think her starts I feel like at 4 or 5 here because it's like 7 there. That's what I think. So I'm eventually gonna go prep food and put it in the oven so my boyfriend gets his break from work. There will be tasty chicken kebabs. I marinated everything this morning, so I have to stick it on kebab sticks and put it in the oven. But I learned how to make oven baked kebabs last week, and I was very excited about that because we don't really have a grill. We don't do enough, and there's only two of us for it to really. warrant investing in like a grill and propane or charcoal and all of that. So a little over an hour away. Perfect, because I was gonna stop in about 30 minutes. So I feel like I made some progress. I didn't actually end up intend for her to be quite as creepy as she has become, but that sort of happened. And I'm just going with it. So what I'm gonna do now is just blend down this part a bit more because I'm going to do some highlights. As long as I don't do too much water, this won't destroy what I already did. I'm gonna use some white paint to add all her little details in here and at least get her tail done. I am determined that her tail is getting finished. And then I just have rocks and coral and the underwater stuff to do. I like her too. I've done a lot of my mermaids are based on real fish, so I've done the one everyone calls the Finding Nemo mermaid because I love clownfish. So one of the first mermaids that I did was inspired by clownfish, and this is definitely inspired. I actually looked up the skeletons of fish and the skeletons of eels. Eel skeletons are really cool because I wanted to do a creepier one. I'm actually not selling the original for this. It's a gift for our local bar and pub here, the Surly Wench. And the Surly Wench specifically said they would not have a pretty mermaid mascot or whatnot. They would be something scary. So I figured we'd do a really creepy siren for them. And they actually have a mermaid skeleton in the bar, which is so cool. I really want one. I don't know where I'd put it, but maybe I could fit it on the mantelpiece with the Velociraptor skeleton. I don't know. We have a really weird skeleton collection. I don't know how that started. We just kept buying weird skeleton things and skulls, and then I don't know. I know a lot of people when they move in with somebody or somebody moves in with them, they encourage them to put their weird stuff away. And when my boyfriend moved in with me, we had the opposite thing happen. We just ended up buying more weird stuff because we're that couple. So we're like, oh, we can always add another skull to the mantelpiece. It's fine. No one will think it's that strange. So I feel like it looks like a combination of like a wizard and Indiana Jones live in our house, and maybe a 10-year-old fan who loves anime characters. um, I don't know. I don't feel like you could take life too seriously, and I'd rather have interesting decor than really expensive decor. All the weird stuff. The weird stuff is the best. So today's the day that Cassie does the study sketch stuff, right? I can't think of what it's called. It has a name. I don't even see what the theme was because I didn't get to go to the earlier streams this week because I had a cold. And really, nobody wants you to show up in a stream and just be like, "I'm sick." um, I was really upset too because last night, I think like 4 or 5 of my close DJ friends, they were all DJing, and I was like, "Hi guys, I'm just gonna be here for half an hour and then I have to go to bed because I feel crummy. I'm sorry." And they were doing a labyrinth dance party last night, so I was a little heartbroken that I had to leave. Oh, that's right, it's portraits. Because she was a little about that. Obviously, I draw people. I say as I'm drawing like the creepiest looking person ever, but um, I actually did portraits like in my teens. I was really into doing both people and animal portraits, and then I've done a couple of figure drawing classes. I'm not the best at it, but um, the trick is to look at it objectively. Like you can't let your brain tell you this is a person, so I have to draw it this way. You have to still break it down into like shapes and things that you can manage. See, I feel like once you get started streaming, I feel like we all need some sort of like list on a website of like here's everybody who streams, because it's hard for me to say like, oh well, sometimes there's Facebook events up for streaming, but not everybody uses Facebook, and I list my streams on my website usually if I'm planning an event. But people have been asking me to put up kind of like a recommended streamer page for all the the DJs and artists who I watch. And I might start streaming video games as well. I'm kind of waiting. I'm waiting for like two things to happen for that to happen because I can't play a lot of video games. I get very motion sick. So I have a few that I play and I play them pretty well. Um, 'Cause I'm that stubborn person who will like learn everything. So I'm waiting either for Torchlight 3 to come out, which they're saying it's been in like alpha and I think it's almost into beta testing now. And I'm really sad I didn't get picked as a tester on either of those because I still want to play it. I was a huge fan of Torchlight and Torchlight 2, so I'm very excited for 3. But that might be a while, so I'm thinking when the next league starts in Path of Exile, I might stream that because you usually start a new character with the league, and I'd feel weird starting streaming on the game and being like, hey guys, here's a character I've already worked on for 3 weeks, and you'll have no idea what's going on, but if I start like a new one, I think that's probably sometime in June. And I don't know if they've announced what it is yet. I've been waiting to see. The way Path of Exile works is it's a free game, and they have kind of a standard server where you can make characters, or they have leagues that they do. And leagues are basically some new storyline and features that they basically need to test out. And essentially, a league is like their beta test, but it has goals in it. So if you are willing to deal with maybe a few bugs and try out the new features and give feedback, basically you can win all sorts of prizes depending on what goals you make in the league. And everything that costs money or that you win as prizes is just cosmetic. So if you choose to donate money, you can get like dragons that follow you around and stuff. They don't do anything in the game; they just look really cool. So they're all basically their entire company is based on something kind of like Kickstarter. It's all donation based, and it's an amazing game. I love that game so much. So I'm very excited every time a new league is coming out to try making a completely different character. So depending on what they say this one is, I've been looking at doing a character that specializes in lightning arrows because I have done poison arrow characters and ice arrow characters. I'm kind of obsessed with bow wielding characters, but I've never done like a full detailed build of a lightning arrow character, and they kind of fixed some issues with those in the last 6 months. So I'm like, ooh, I really want to do some sort of electric shock themed character. So if you're a fan of basically kind of massive multiplayer games, but also kind of action RPGs, what makes Path of Exile so unusual is that while there are character classes, they just have to do with what special abilities your character gets when they ascend in the game. It doesn't have to do with what skills you can get on a skill tree because it's one skill tree for all characters. And the skill tree has, I think at last count, over somewhere between 2 and 3,000 skills. So you can literally make a witch that wields broadswords or a barbarian that can summon skeletons if that's what you want to do. So it has a lot of creativity to it, which is probably why I like it. Um, and people are just coming up with weird combos and things in the game. So I'm really curious as to what's next for the league. They've not really. I don't think they revealed it. It could have happened while I was sick, but I'm pretty sure it's this coming week they're going to reveal what the next league is. So, Path of Exile. So if you liked games like Diablo 1 and 2, we're not talking about 3. Um, if you like games like that, you will definitely like Path of Exile, and it's free. It's actually by a small company in New Zealand that really interacts with their fans and makes updates and things based upon fan feedback. In fact, sometimes fans even design items for the game. If they win contests, they get to, like, if they do fan art contests or build contests or screenshot ones for your hideout or things like that. And if you win them, you can actually design items in the game, or your character ends up being like a bad guy somewhere in the game or cool stuff like that. But they actually do Elder Scrolls is pretty cool too. Yeah, I can't play some of those because motion sickness, but I have to do isometric things. So I never really got to do that. My boyfriend's been playing is it No Man's Sky? It's really cool. I can't watch him play for more than 5 minutes because otherwise I would throw up. But I look over and he's like, check out this cool weird alien species I found. And look, I built a mech in space. And I'm like, what is happening right now? This is really cool. But I also don't have that much time, obviously, since I spend a lot of time painting and writing. Sometimes I work like 14-hour days. So being sick and only being able to work like 5-hour days the last couple days has been really annoying. I just shipped out a whole bunch of store orders that went out yesterday, and I'm going to catch up. We're doing like a big sale in my online store to help pay for our roof, which needs a bunch of stuff done to it, of course, because this year loves to throw stuff at us. Um, so I'm doing kind of a reward sale where the more you order, the more free stuff you get with some of our overstock stuff. So I could pay for that. So we mailed out everything, and then a bunch more orders came in over the weekend, so they'll go out in the next 24 hours, along with some awesome commissions I got to do. And I'm really excited that one of my biggest fans commissioned me to do 6 characters. I gave her a good discount for doing a whole series of them, so I got to do 6 different characters, and they're just for personal use. So some of them are based on Sailor Scouts, but they're her own Sailor Scouts. So I'm really excited. There's definitely going to be an Egyptian Sailor Scout, so I'm really excited about that because I love Egyptian mythology so much. And there's a crystal mermaid that's going to happen as part of that too. So I'll probably stream some of those that I'm working on for her over the summer. We're doing it over like a 3-month period, so she has a good payment plan time, so she's not having to pay for 6 all at once, and then I have time to do sketches and send them to her. And yeah, it's been a balance figuring out the commission stuff. But look, she has a tail now, except for the part at the bottom here, which we need to work on. And I also need to work on kind of what's going on with the water. So the white I've been adding is gouache. I used to always use white ink, but now that I found gouache that I like, I've been using that a little more just because I like how you can blend it with watercolor. If I need to fix something that I don't want to smudge or that I need really bold, then I will still use white ink. But gouache is really cool for doing like these reflections on top of the watercolor, because essentially it's watercolor that is not transparent, so you could do a lot with it. So yeah, I was gonna learn how to use the new Oracle deck I got for Wednesday's stream. I got a really cool Egyptian Oracle deck. It's totally my excuse to get one. It wasn't really expensive. But yeah, I wanted to get one, and I was like, oh look, I can Egyptian theme our Wednesday night, and then I have a reason to need to buy this. So I was gonna learn how to use it this afternoon, but I might actually, if I feel well enough, I might do Cassie's stream instead and do the portrait drawing challenge sketch session thing that she's doing, because I have a lot of fun with everybody on her stream, and I love that she does that on Sundays and gets a lot of people to draw together. It's kind of a big party. I feel kind of sad that it's East Coast and that there's so many cool folks on the East Coast now, because I'm like, oh man, I'm never going to get to hang out with you guys in real life and draw. I'm just going to be too far away. But I thought I would go back to the East Coast. And then now it's been almost 20 years since I was there, so that didn't happen. So I really hated Arizona when I first came out here at age 20. I had a couple of really bad experiences, and I was here with my parents too, which is a whole other can of worms, but I like it a lot better now. I had to find Tucson, and Tucson is unique and bizarre, I guess is what I'm looking for in in terms of just perfect, because I'm a weirdo, so anytime you can find a place that's as weird as you are and you live there, you usually don't want to move. And I actually saw some really positive news from a local university here, which is actually a great university, that there's a doctor there that has identified substances that stop the growth of COVID-19 in the body. So that's kind of the first steps to combating it. So kind of proud of our doctors and researchers at the university here for working on that so tirelessly and actually making what sounds like progress like that. That's I'm like, look, something actually positive on the news because we see like so much crazy negative stuff. I think it's popular to put the negative stuff in as dramatic a way as possible in the headlines. And there we go. So now at least it looks like her tail is going below the water. We still need to work more on the water down here, and actually I feel like this part down here should be a lot darker before I add in like all the coral and the rest of this rock and the background stuff I'm gonna do. I really want to darken this down a bit because it's underwater, so her tail is gonna be darker. I was kind of waiting to do this part. Blend it all in. My phone is buzzing. Why? Oh, because one of the other streamers I follow just started streaming. I follow an awesome streamer called Potastic P because we actually watch the YouTube video she does with her boyfriend. And she started out as like a modder for games and kind of streaming games, but a lot of the time now she also just goes on stream and just chats with people. She's insanely popular. She had such a huge YouTube audience that they all kind of followed her, and she started getting like 7 or 8 thousand people each of her streams. I was like, whoa, that's insane. Um, that's a lot. I mean, you need a really good mods. I don't think I'd want that many to start out with, as far as like people watching me stream like right off the bat because that's a lot. Um, but yeah, her boyfriend was kind of making a big fuss for a bit about the fact that no barbers and his hair kept growing out. He's kind of vain about his hair in a really comical way. So she decided to cut his hair for him, and they did it on stream. I think she bribed him or something, because that never. I don't know if that ever would have happened. I mean, my boyfriend and I cut our own hair. A part of my head's buzzed. I have clippers. It's not a big deal, but he is making like a huge deal out of it. So it was honestly very entertaining. I was watching that the other day, but I don't know how people can do like 5 or 6 hours in a stream. Like that seems insane to me. Like I can do 2.5, and then I'm like, I'm tired. I need a break. But thank you guys all for hanging out with me too. Yeah, to have that many people in a stream like within the first week of you streaming, I mean they already were pretty familiar with stuff from YouTube, but I'm just saying that that's a lot. Like I think gradual growth is good because I don't even use mods yet. I think if I start getting hundreds of people, we might consider that. Um, but I don't actually need moderators for my streams, and but they've been doing YouTube videos for many years. So I mean they have I know their joint channel hit over 1 million subscribers this year. So when you have 1 million subscribers there, and then one of the people starts streaming, it's not that crazy to think that she'd immediately get thousands of people. She's a sweetheart. Cassie gets a lot of activity in her streams too, like a crazy. I don't know how she keeps up with all the chat. Like she actually reads it all aloud and tries to keep up with it. And I'm like, there's so many messages. I don't know how she does that, but and a lot of the DJs here, they get a lot of people almost like right away hit like 50 or 100 people. But again, they're people who have that following person here, or DJs just network each other. Some of them have been really awesome about using our art in streams though. Um, my friend Vamp Feline has used my art in streams like at least once and wants to do it again. And this is like a background with some of like what the DJs are doing. So that's been pretty cool. So yeah, this has to dry before I can do all the coral and stuff. But progress. Yeah, I thought she should have kind of a cloudy sky back here because I didn't think it should be too cheery considering she's not that cheery. And I've also got these fish bones here I need to work on. Definitely need to paint that a bit darker. And the gray I'm using is one of my favorite paints ever. It is called Graphite Gray. It's by Daniel Smith, and it's made from pencil graphite, so it gets that exact gray color, and I think it's an amazing color. So, and if you paint over a pencil sketch with it, it looks like a pencil sketch that's somehow been done in paint. It's really cool. I know people have been asking me to do. I used to do demos using just that years ago in person, and I've had a couple of those students from many years ago, when I was a very young artist here in Tucson from like 10 years ago, show up and ask me like, when are you gonna do a graphite gray painting? So I haven't figured out exactly what would be the right subject matter for that one as far as projects go. So to think on that. And then the other crazy thing is if you do this full time, if you stream, if you create, especially if you create books, we're usually working like 2 to 3 books ahead. So this is for my next book that's coming out, but we have a book release party for the coloring books coming up on the 5th, because I've mailed all those to Kickstarter backers, and we're going to do like a formal public release event where I'm going to show all the cool coloring books we just did. So I'm kind of multitasking that, but then I'm also working on art for a picture book that's coming out sometime this year. And we're kind of already brainstorming the next like Oracle deck and book project. And the weird thing is, you're often like working so far ahead. You might be working like plenty of the writers I know. They'll be writing the next book before they know if people liked the previous book in the series. So that's kind of crazy and scary as a creator because you're just like, I don't even know if what I already did was good, and I've already got to work on the next one. So fortunately for me, with Patreon, I can preview pages from things, both the writing and the art. And like I already know people really like the design for this book, because I've previewed a bunch of pages from it, and my subscribers are like all over the design for it because I spent a long time choosing what fonts and what the look of the book would be. So it's very much it's got stains on it. I wanted it to look like more like a scrapbook or a piece together field guide. Some of mine are a little more formal looking, and this one looks like a bunch of like notes that have been thrown in with artwork. And I wanted to have like stains from some of the beverages that you're reading about, like spilled on the pages. So I've had a really good time. I've been working a bit on that, and I'd say if there's one thing I got behind on, I wanted more time to work on the art and layout the last few days, and getting sick, super fun. But I've arranged with my editor that I'm going to start getting her stuff to proofread in June. So fortunately, this book does not have the level of writing of some of my other field guides. It's just little short kind of note cards for the creatures versus like a page or two, because some of them I've done extensive amounts of research for. Some of the creatures in this book are ones that I've invented or that my Patreon subscribers have invented, and others are ones from mythology. We're including the drunken rabbits from Aztec mythology, which I had a blast writing about. I already got those pages done. We're including Japanese sake spirits, which is really fun. Of course, absinthe fairies. I included one of those. And then lots of coffee and tea creatures because we have to, because everybody always likes when I do coffee and tea dragons. So this is going to be more fish bones up here, and I'm just trying to make this dark enough so that when I come back with white and actually paint like the skeletal bones, they're going to stand out. Probably I can do like another 10 minutes, and then I'm trying to allow time to like heat up the oven and actually put kebab things on sticks. Since I'm making so many kebabs, I have to do 2 batches. Because last week I did one and I thought I made a lot, and my boyfriend liked them so much we went through them pretty quickly. So I guess it's a good thing. And honestly, even if we had a grill, I'd still do them in the oven because it's easier and faster. The trick to doing them in the oven is that you have to have a metal cooling rack that you normally use for cookies that's oven safe. And then what you do is you put tinfoil on a cookie sheet and then put the rack on top of that and spray it with nonstick spray and then put your kebabs on that. So it's essentially like making a grill in your oven so that they can get cooked top and bottom. And then you rotate and baste them a couple times during the 20 to 30 minutes they're in the oven. And it actually cooks them really, really evenly. So I just do like chicken and veggies, and they are marinating in tropical soyaki sauce, which is kind of like a tropical soy
teriyaki sauce. So it should be really good. I hope. Yeah, if you just like search like baked chicken kebabs, you can find a ton of recipes for them. And the nice thing is like you can prep stuff ahead of time, just have it marinating, and then all you gotta do is stick them on skewers. And I just make rice to go with them. Because I look for stuff that I can make where it might use the oven, but I don't have to watch them all the time because it gets very hot here in the summer. So even with the AC on, I don't like to do a lot of like standing over the frying pan. So I do a lot of like oven bake stuff. But yeah, I for some reason didn't realize you could do kebabs in the oven because I thought that they would just be kind of weird. They wouldn't be the same thing as grilling them. I mean, they don't get the same char quite. Um, but yeah, having that like if you ever done cookies and you have one of those little grid racks that are metal that you cool your cookies on, if you just use nonstick spray, it washes off really easily afterwards. And that's the key for doing not only kebabs, but amazing bacon in the oven because it kind of raises it up above the sheet that you're cooking it on. So cooking is kind of my hobby. I do to relax. Sometimes I do it decoratively, like I've done theme cakes and I feel like once you're creative in one area, it sort of spreads. And one of these days, maybe I'll do a theme cake on stream if I have a reason to make one. I usually do modeling chocolate, so I can either sculpt flowers or creatures to go on the cakes, and it's a lot of fun. A few people have been like, "Could you do a cake for us for something professionally?" And I'm like, "No, no, this is my relaxing thing I do." You like I've seen shows where people have to make cakes for weddings and oh cool, you love cooking. Well, gosh, now I wish you did live closer. We could totally be buddies. But yeah, I have a friend here who bakes like crazy and we keep meaning to hang out and bake and then quarantine happened. So that didn't happen. I mean quarantine's sort of lifted here. It's basically like you can go out but proceed with caution. So we're just kind of all giving it June before we go out for things that are non-essential. I think almost everyone I know is doing that. We're really not doing like we go to coffee shops to get coffee to go or something, but yeah, we don't go out yet. That we'll have to swap some recipes then. Oh, that's yeah. I've taken the professional like some of the courses, but I don't love okay, so I'll probably get yelled at for this, but my whole thing is it has to taste good first. And I think fondant is disgusting. And I think the frosting they teach you the Wilton way of doing frosting for doing flowers is gross because it's basically just like a rock hard sugar flour. So that's why I learned to do like modeling chocolate and stuff. Like I think it has to taste good first. So I actually just do buttercream frostings. I use less sugar in mine. And a lot of like fresh things, either zests or I may or may not make a good Bailey's Irish cream frosting, but yeah, I don't care if the frosting isn't going to be perfectly smooth like fondant would be because I know it's going to taste better. Um, but yeah, it could be super stressful. Like I wouldn't want to do it professionally. I admire the fact that you were able to do cake decorating professionally because I'm like, like I love watching the shows where they're in the competitions, but I'm like, I would never do that. I would just be so stressed out if I tried to do a competition like that. I don't know how people manage the stress for that. I think you have to have the right mindset. But yeah, I think if you're creative in art, it's easy to kind of translate that to food or vice versa. I mean, obviously using different tools, but I think there's something about writing. It's why I kind of do writing and art. I think if you're kind of creating in one area, other than learning a different sort of language when it's writing versus painting, a lot of the techniques for being creative are awesome. Oh, see, I bet homemade fondant is better. I don't know. Like people are always get these like wedding cakes or these cakes that are so pretty, and I'm like, they taste so. Nobody eats the frosting; they peel it off. So I do. Since you actually know baking, I do a dark chocolate cake. It's my favorite one, and it's the one that you can get from the back of the unsweetened Ghirardelli cocoa, like the powdered stuff. That's the best chocolate cake recipe. And I do that and fill it with usually some kind of fruit like raspberries or strawberries, and obviously some like buttercream so that they don't leak out the sides. And then I do either vanilla or Irish cream frosting because Irish cream mixes in really easily with buttercream. So I do like that, and I'll either decorate with fruit or I have done sculpted stuff. But I'm I'm usually so busy now I can't do like 5 hours on a cake, so I have to do more simple stuff with like chocolate dipped fruit or something. But yeah, I'm like, hey, it's gonna taste good to begin with, and then like, yeah, that like that chocolate cake with Irish cream frosting, and like if you can get organic strawberries like that, that's my like perfect cake. And then like strawberry shortcake, I'm also pretty good at. It never looks very pretty, but I don't think strawberry shortcake, at least not the way I grew up having it, where you actually make it with biscuits. It's kind of supposed to look messy, so and I fortunately have a boyfriend who loves to eat, so I can usually force stuff on him. I learned how to make bonbons recently, so I was really excited about that. They're terrible for you health wise because the ones I learned to make are just like the cream cheese ones. They're really easy, but like you're basically just eating like butter and cream cheese and coconut and chocolate. Like it's terrible for you, but we eat pretty healthy the rest of the time. Like the kebabs I'm making, there's really nothing bad for you. And I have a rice cooker, so I can do the rice to go with them pretty easy. So yeah, I do a lot of like really healthy foods to make up for my desserts, and I use all good quality ingredients in the desserts. Hi, kitty. You saying hi? Stormageddon says hello. Sure, you guys can hear her making a racket, but yeah, I find that like cooking is like I usually will cook and I'll put like an audiobook on, and that's kind of my unwind relaxing thing. And like at this level on a painting too, when I already have it all sketched out and I'm just kind of playing around with all the details, that's pretty relaxing. Will you hush, nutty cat? That's pretty relaxing for me too. But when like I'm doing a lot of like really intense research and writing or like clerical work like shipping or setting up a Kickstarter, because you if you've been through that process, you know it's like a process to just take the time and figure out all the rewards. I'm pretty fast now. I've done it a lot. I could probably do it in 5 hours now, but it's still a lot of figuring out because you're not just figuring out like how much production of whatever the items you're offering are going to cost and their shipping. You're also figuring out, well, how long is it going to take you if you're making some of those things or just to package those things. So will you stop? Why are you being all meowy? Do you want to say hi? Is that what's going on? Come here. Oh, now you're just gonna walk away. Like, yeah, the research is the hardest part. And, like, I always tell people, they say, oh, you're so talented. I'm like, no, I research and I'm stubborn. So if you are willing to put a lot of work into something and you're stubborn enough to keep trying and, all the information on how to do a good Kickstarter is out there too. I mean, there's so much information on the internet about everything now. But the actual researching time of like I know what publisher I always use for my books, so I'm pretty consistent there, but I still have to go through they have a price calculator of like, okay, am I doing a paperback? Am I doing a hardcover? What paper am I doing it on? This book we're actually doing for the first time the hardcover on much more expensive, nicer paper. I've been kind of doing the same paper for both, but we're going to make the hardcover a little more collectible. So it's going to be on slightly more special paper. So we'll see if folks like that. Fortunately, that doesn't make it cost more to ship, um, as far as that goes. So I can at least offer something nicer for people paying a lot for shipping. Because I feel bad. The international shipping on my books is pretty brutal. International shipping as a whole is just expensive. So will you stop? And I'm trying to decide if I want to offer something special for Twitch subscribers as well. I always do something for Patreon subscribers. So if you're a Patreon subscriber and you also pledge to my Kickstarters, you get extra rewards because you're basically supporting me across the board. You're going to get extra stuff. So I might also do something special for folks who subscribe on Twitch. And I'll just have to figure out which months we're gonna do it for. So I can keep track of that. But I try to do those not only because it makes people then go look at the other service and see if they want to subscribe on it, but also because I feel like if you're supporting me on different platforms, I really want to have you get more stuff that's special. Like everybody on my Patreon who pledges $5 or more a month, for the month that this book comes out, they get the digital copy for free, which is worth at least $5. So um, that's kind of my cool way of getting people to try Patreon and also to give them something back because they've helped design all of the creatures in my books. So, well, it's starting to look like coral. I have a lot more to do, but like it is still sketched in here. It's just really, really light. And I don't need to use reference for coral because I've painted it like 20 times. I did a lot of seahorse studies for a bit. So, yeah, I think I'm probably going to stop in about 5 minutes only because I want to make food and I know Cassie's going to be streaming, though she may be streaming at the same time that I'm having my break with my boyfriend, but then I can join in afterwards. So I feel like she's going to start right when his break starts. But she usually goes for a while, so I'm hoping I can kind of join in and do some portraits or something there. I haven't done any for a while, so it'll probably be healthy for me to take a break and exercise different drawing muscles. Take a break from drawing to draw. Yeah, that totally makes sense. But it's so cool. I'm really happy to like meet somebody else who likes baking and cake decorating and creating stuff. Because I'm always kind of happy to network that way and to make new friends, especially friends who understand like the Kickstarter journey. Because I either get people who think that I'm just having people throw money at me and that I don't do any work and that I don't have a quote real job. My boyfriend doesn't feel that way because he sees that I work like a third more hours than he does, if not double, some weeks. Like I'll start working at like 7 or 8 in the morning, and then he'll go to work, and I'll work like the full 8 hours he's at work as well. So I end up doing 12 or 14 hour days. But then I also get people who think that then they can do Kickstarter with no effort, that they'll just throw something up there and not have to research how long to run it for, or who to promote it to, or what they're creating. And then when it fails, they're like, oh, you're just lucky. And I'm like, no, I put the time in, and I'm happy to share that information for anyone who wants it. Oh, the kitten woke up. You want to say hi before you mess up my whole stream? Step on the keyboard and everything. Here's the crazy kitten. Yeah? You want me to stop streaming soon, don't you? Don't you? They're getting hungry. They usually get fed in, I don't know, it's about an hour from now. So they're starting to wonder what I'm doing in here instead of feeding them, even though it's way too early. But hey, we got her. I think she's like 80 to 90% done. I think I just need to do some more details here. And her arms need a little work. A little bit. Yeah, that's our kitten who showed up at our door about 14 months ago and wouldn't leave. So we did not mean to have another cat, but she was a pound and a half, and it was like 85 outside, and there were coyotes and things. So I was a little worried and put her in a bathroom, and we tried to figure out if we wanted to have a friend adopt her. And while we were kind of looking around, it turned out that my boyfriend has never even seen like a kitten in person before this. So he got pretty attached. So somehow we ended up with a sixth cat, which, yeah, we have six, which is insane. But they all kind of play with each other, and I'm here working most days, so they get company, and it works out good. All right, well, I think we're gonna wrap up. If anybody has questions, you can always hit me up. I have Discord. I have. Oh yeah, see, you're gonna go get food too. I'm gonna go make food and put it in the oven. But yeah, I have Discord. I have Patreon. I have a website. It's raredragons.com. You can find all the info there or on my Twitch below. And I'm always happy to like talk to folks and make new friends. And I'll probably see you later in the at least some of you guys later in Cassie's stream. But yeah, I'm gonna go make my kebabs. Maybe I'll post some photos on Instagram just to like make you guys all jealous. But oh, thank you. And I will definitely, I'm going to put an event up. I haven't put it on my website or Facebook yet, but I will definitely be doing like an Egyptian themed thing for our Wednesday witching hour. And I need to get that up. I'll probably do werewolves and vampires the following week. So I'm definitely going to be doing that. So thank you guys so much for stopping in and keeping me company and helping me work on my creepy mermaid. So I will see you again soon. Be safe. Wash your hands. Don't let the state of the world get you down. Try to inspire and encourage others and be positive and be creative.